Ava. Hi, I'm Ava. I'm 29 years old, and this is my story. It's not a story with a neat little bow at the end. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's about family, or what I thought family was. It's about love, betrayal, and eventually learning to protect yourself even when it hurts the people who are supposed to love you most. For a long time, I lived with this ache, this persistent hum of unworthiness that my childhood had etched into my bones. You know, that feeling you get when you're constantly measured against an invisible standard and always come up short? That was my normal. Now, though, looking around my apartment, this place I've built for myself, it's a sanctuary. It smells like vanilla and clean linen, not like the lingering scent of my stepsister's perfume that used to fill my old room, or the faint, dusty smell of neglect that clung to my things after they were shuffled into the attic. My walls are painted a soft sage green, a color I picked myself, a color of peace. There are books everywhere, plants thriving, a comfy, oversized armchair by the window where I drink my coffee and watch the city wake up. This space is mine. Every single decision here was mine. And that's important, because for so long, nothing was truly mine. My mom and I, before everything, we had a good thing. I mean, as good as it could be, just the two of us. My dad left when I was really young, so it was always Mom and Ava, a team. She worked hard. We didn't have much, but we had each other. I remember her braiding my hair before school, telling me stories, making my favorite pancakes on Saturday mornings. Simple, sweet moments that I held onto fiercely. She was my rock, my entire world. I idolized her. I wanted to make her proud more than anything. Then, when I was about 12, she met Mark. My stepdad. He was fine. Quiet. Worked in construction. Seemed decent enough. He had a daughter, Chloe, who was just a year younger than me. And that's when the tectonic plates of my life started to shift. Chloe was different. She was a blonde, bubbly, effortlessly charming girl. She was good at everything. Sports, academics, social circles. She walked into a room and people gravitated towards her. And my mom just beamed when Chloe was around. It started subtly. Little comments. Chloe got an A+ on her history project. She's so organized. Chloe tried out for the cheerleading squad and made it. Isn't that wonderful? And then a little glance at me, as if to say, why can't you be like that, Ava? I was a quiet kid. I loved reading, art, writing. I was good at those things, but they weren't flashy. They didn't win trophies or get shout-outs at the dinner table. Suddenly, the things I was good at seemed to shrink, to become insignificant in the face of Chloe's radiant perfection. I tried, though. Oh, how I tried. I'd show my mom a drawing, a poem, and she'd nod, maybe say, "That's nice, honey," but her eyes would be elsewhere, always seeking out Chloe. It was like I was speaking a different language and Chloe was the only one she understood. Chloe moved in with us permanently a few months after Mark and my mom got married. And that's when it really ramped up. My mom started treating Chloe like the daughter she'd always dreamed of. She'd take Chloe shopping. They'd get their nails done. They'd spend hours laughing in the kitchen while I sat in my room, feeling like a ghost. I remember one specific time, I'd gotten an AB on a math test, which for me was a huge improvement. I was so proud. I showed it to my mom, hoping for a hug, a good job. Instead, she just said, "Chloe got an A in calculus. You should ask her for help." The air just went out of me. It wasn't even a reprimand, just a casual dismissal of my achievement, replaced with an elevation of Chloe's. My room was always my sanctuary. It was small, but it was mine. I had my books, my art supplies, my messy posters. It was the one place where I felt safe to be myself, away from the constant comparisons. And Chloe, she had her own room down the hall, of course. For a while, things were bearable, if a little suffocating. I kept to myself more, spent more time at the library or a friend's house. I learned to be invisible in my own home. The real breaking point, the moment that sealed my fate in their eyes and irrevocably changed my perception of my family, happened when I was 17. I was getting ready to go to college. I'd worked my butt off to get scholarships, because I knew my mom and Mark couldn't or wouldn't help much. I got into a decent state school, nothing fancy, but it was my ticket out. I was so excited, so ready to finally breathe. I was packing up my things, sorting through years of accumulated treasures and junk, when my mom walked in. She had this almost apologetic, but also determined, look on her face. "Ava," she started, fiddling with a loose thread on her shirt, "Chloe needs a bigger room." My heart lurched. "What are you talking about, Mom?" "She has a room." "Yes, but it's smaller, and her things are getting cramped." And she paused, taking a breath. "You're going away to college. You won't be here." I stared at her, disbelief chilling me to the bone. "So? It's still my room, Mom. I'll be home for breaks, for summers." She waved her hand dismissively. "Well, Chloe could really use the space. She's got all her cheerleading stuff, her art projects, her trophies, and you just have, well, your books." It was said with such a casual indifference, as if my books were meaningless clutter compared to Chloe's accolades. "We thought it would be best if Chloe moved into your room. It's got better light, and it's a little bigger. We'll just pack your things up and put them in the attic." Just pack my things up and put them in the attic. Like I was a temporary guest, and my entire existence in that house could be boxed away, out of sight, out of mind. My sanctuary, my tiny corner of the world, was being handed over. Not for necessity, not for some grand family crisis, but because Chloe, the better daughter, needed more space. It wasn't just a room. It was a symbol. It was the physical manifestation of my displacement, the final confirmation that I was secondary, always. I remember my voice shaking as I asked, "So, when I come home for Christmas, where do I sleep, Mom? On the couch?" She sighed, a put-upon sigh, as if I was being difficult. "Oh, Ava, don't be dramatic. We'll set up a spare bed in Chloe's old room for you. Or you can sleep on the couch. It's comfortable enough." It was then that something in me snapped. Not in an explosive, screaming way. It was a quiet, internal snap, like a thick rubber band that had been stretched too thin, finally giving way. The hurt was so profound, so deep, it bypassed anger and settled into a cold, hard resolve. I knew, in that moment, that I was truly on my own. My mother had effectively given my place in her home, and in her heart, to someone else. She had chosen.
And it wasn't me.
I finished packing that day with a grim determination. I didn't say another word about it. I just meticulously sorted my belongings, deciding what was essential enough to take with me to college and what could be relegated to the dusty confines of the attic. I remember looking at the empty walls, the bare floorboards of my room, and feeling a strange sense of liberation. This place no longer held any power over me. It was just a room that was no longer mine. College was my escape. It was hard. I worked 2 jobs to make ends meet on top of my studies, but it was mine. I made new friends, people who saw me, not just the shadow of a perfect stepsister.
I thrived.
I discovered a passion for marketing, found my voice, started to believe in my own worth. Every achievement, no matter how small, felt monumental because it was solely my effort, my victory. My contact with my mom and Chloe dwindled. Visits home for holidays were awkward. I'd sleep in Chloe's old, cramped room, which was now full of forgotten junk, or sometimes, indeed, on the pull-out couch in the living room. Chloe would parade around in my old room, which she had redecorated to her exact taste, displaying all her cheerleading awards and photos with her new friends. My mom would beam at her, asking about her classes, her social life, her new boyfriend, while I sat silently, feeling like an interloper. It was less painful with each passing year because I was building my own life, my own identity, far away from their judgments. My mom would call sometimes, usually to brag about Chloe. "Chloe just got accepted into her dream sorority. Ava, isn't that amazing? Chloe's excelling in her business classes. She's going to be so successful." Never asking much about my marketing internships, my dean's list achievements, my struggles, or my triumphs. It was always about Chloe. I learned to keep my answers brief, polite, and emotionally detached. It was a self-preservation mechanism. I moved to this city right after graduation. got a job I loved, started saving, and finally 3 years ago, moved into this apartment. It felt like reclaiming a piece of my soul. Every piece of furniture, every painting, every mug in my cupboard is a testament to my hard work, my independence, my ability to create a home that is truly, unapologetically mine. I finally found peace here, a peace that was hard-won. Over the years, I heard snippets of news from mutual acquaintances, or the rare phone call from my mom that wasn't solely about Chloe. It sounded like Chloe was having a harder time than my mom let on. Rumors of financial trouble, job hopping, strained relationships. But my mom always spun it positive. Chloe's just exploring her options. Chloe's a free spirit. She's finding herself. I tried not to dwell on it. It wasn't my problem.
I had learned, painfully, to detach.
Then, about 6 months ago, the calls from my mom changed. The tone shifted. There was less bragging, more thinly veiled anxiety. She'd ask about my job, almost hesitantly, then pivot to Mark's latest business venture that wasn't quite panning out, or Chloe's temporary setback. I could read between the lines. Mark had lost his job a year prior, a big one, and had struggled to find anything similar. Chloe, it turned out, had racked up a significant amount of credit card debt and student loans that she wasn't paying back. My mom, ever the enabler, had been trying to bail them both out, draining her own retirement savings. The house, their house, the one I'd grown up in, the one Chloe had taken over, it was under foreclosure threat. My heart still did a funny little clench in my chest when I heard this. It wasn't pity, not exactly. More like a heavy weight of inevitability. A confirmation of what I had always suspected, that their perfect facade was just that, a facade. And that chasing after that perceived perfection had led them down a dangerous path. But still, I kept my distance. I had built a fortress around myself, and I wasn't about to let cracks appear. Then, 2 weeks ago, I got the call. It was my mom. Her voice was thin, reedy, completely devoid of its usual forced cheerfulness. "Ava," she choked out, it's bad. We lost the house. The bank foreclosed. We have nowhere to go." The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. I just listened. "No, I told you so. No, I warned you." Just a quiet, awful silence on my end. I felt a strange mix of emotions. Shock, certainly. A flash of something akin to sadness for the loss of a home, even if it wasn't really my home anymore. And then, a flicker of vindication. A dark, ugly, but undeniable feeling that justice, in its own twisted way, had finally been served. She continued, her voice breaking. "Mark's parents can't take us in. They're in a tiny apartment. Chloe's ex-boyfriend wouldn't even answer her calls. We've been staying in a cheap motel, but we're running out of money, Ava. We have nowhere to go." I still didn't speak. What was there to say? My throat felt thick. Then, after a long, agonizing pause, she said it. The words that, even now, make my blood run cold. "Ava, you have that spare key to your apartment, right? The one we had for emergencies years ago? Could we just stay with you for a little while? Just until we get back on our feet?" My spare key. The one I'd given her years ago when I first moved into this apartment, thinking, foolishly, that maybe, just maybe, she'd still be my mom. A symbol of trust, a lifeline. The audacity of it took my breath away. It was like she hadn't given away my room, hadn't dismissed my entire existence, hadn't chosen Chloe over me again and again. It was like none of that had ever happened. I remember sitting there, my phone pressed to my ear, my entire body rigid. My beautiful, peaceful apartment suddenly felt vulnerable. This sanctuary, this space I had fought so hard to create and protect, was now being eyed as a temporary solution for the very people who had cast me out. All the memories flooded back. The conversations, the dismissals, the quiet tears I cried into my pillow. The way I felt like a burden, an afterthought. The moment she told me my room was no longer mine. The years of feeling invisible. The subtle, insidious message that I was never quite good enough, never quite the daughter she wanted. And now, after all of it, after they had squandered their lives, after Chloe's perfection had proven to be nothing but a fragile illusion. I was their last resort. I was the one they came crawling to, not for an apology, not for recognition of the pain they had inflicted, but for a roof over their heads. For my roof, in my sanctuary. My mind raced. If I said yes, what would that look like? My mom, Mark, Chloe, all three of them in my small apartment. Chloe, with her entitlement, her expectation that things would just be handed to her. My mom, still probably doting on Chloe, blaming me for her lack of understanding. Mark, the quiet enabler. My peace would be shattered. My boundaries would be trampled. My hard-won independence would feel like a joke. They wouldn't just be guests. They would invade every corner of my life, just as they had invaded my childhood. They would bring their chaos, their unresolved issues, their victimhood, and project it all onto me. I would revert to being the overlooked, secondary daughter in my own home. And for what? For the fleeting sense of doing my duty as a daughter? For a moment of false reconciliation that would inevitably lead to more pain? A single, potent thought cut through the whirlwind of emotions. Asterisk, she gave my room to a better daughter. Now that better daughter is homeless, and my mom wants my spare key. Asterisk, the sheer irony, the bitter taste of it, filled my mouth. My voice, when it came out, was surprisingly steady.
Come even.
It wasn't a shout. It wasn't laced with the anger I probably deserved to feel. It was just firm. Mom, I said, I understand you're in a terrible situation, and I'm truly sorry to hear that. But no. There was a stunned silence on the other end. Then, a sharp intake of breath.
No?
Ava, what do you mean? No. We have nowhere to go. Your own mother and sister are homeless. I mean no, Mom. I repeated, my voice not wavering. I can't let you stay here. This is my home.
My space.
And I've worked incredibly hard to build this life for myself, a life where I feel safe and at peace. I can't jeopardize that. But family, she cried, her voice rising in pitch, a desperate, familiar plea. We're family, Ava. How can you turn your back on us? Family doesn't give away your room, Mom, I said, the words coming out colder than I intended, but I didn't regret them. Family doesn't prioritize one child over another, year after year, making one feel worthless while elevating the other. Family doesn't only come to you when they need something, after years of neglect and dismissal. I heard a gasp, not just from my mom, but I could hear Chloe in the background, probably listening in just as she always had. Ava, that's not fair. You're bringing up old history. This is a crisis. My mom's voice was now tinged with a familiar indignation, as if I was the one being unreasonable. It's not old history when the consequences are still felt today, Mom. My peace of mind, my sense of security, my ability to trust, those are all still consequences. And I won't sacrifice them. You made your choices, Mom. You chose Chloe. You chose Mark. You chose to support their decisions, even when they were clearly destructive. And now, you have to live with those choices. I could hear her sobbing now, genuine, heartbroken sobs. It twisted something inside me, a tiny piece of that little girl who just wanted her mom to love her. But the bigger, stronger, 29-year-old Ava held firm. I can't offer you a place to stay, Mom, I said, my voice softer now, but no less resolute. But I can give you the number for few local shelters. And there are resources for families in crisis. I can email you some links. She didn't respond, just the sound of her crying and then a click. She had hung up. The silence after the call was deafening. And then, slowly, a profound sense of calm settled over me. It wasn't the calm of victory, or even of vindication. It was the calm of self-preservation, of finally, truly putting myself first.
It hurt, yes.
It tore at the vestiges of the daughter who still longed for her mother's unconditional love. But it was necessary. I didn't hear from them again. Not directly. I assume they found somewhere to go, or perhaps they're still struggling. I don't know, and I've made a conscious decision not to seek out that information. It's not about being cruel. It's about setting a boundary that, for the first time in my life, I refuse to let anyone cross. This isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about realizing that you don't owe anyone, not even your parents, access to your peace if they've consistently undermined it. It's about understanding that sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that save you. It's about building your own home, not just with bricks and mortar, but with self-respect and boundaries. My apartment isn't just walls and a roof. It's a monument to the girl who was told she wasn't good enough, who then fought tooth and nail to prove she was. And in doing so, created a space where she could finally, truly belong. And that, for now, is enough. If any of this resonated with you, if you've ever had to make a tough choice for your own well-being, or if you just want to hear more stories like mine, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. It helps me know these stories matter, and it helps this channel grow. Thank you for listening.